Let's talk about workplace bullying. It's a term we've all heard, right? But it's so often misunderstood. And honestly, it's happening way more than we think, sometimes right under our noses, and the fallout can be absolutely devastating. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack what it really is, how you can spot the signs, and, most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, let's just start with a number to put this all in perspective. 76.3 million. That is the staggering number of U.S. workers who've been affected by workplace bullying. Think about that for a second. That's nearly 1 out of every 3 people in your office, on your team, or in that Zoom meeting. This isn't just some rare HR issue, it's a massive systemic problem.
You know, some have called workplace bullying an office cancer, and that metaphor is, well, it's spot on. Just like a disease, it can start really small, almost unnoticeable, but if you leave it unchecked, it spreads, poisoning the culture of a team, and sometimes even the entire organization.
So it's super important that we get on the same page about what we're actually talking about here. Look, everyone has a bad day. We all have disagreements with coworkers. That's normal. But workplace bullying? That's something else entirely. It's not a one-time thing. It's a pattern.
So what's the official definition? It's the persistent mistreatment that actively undermines someone's self-worth and their work. The keywords there are persistent and undermines. This is repeated, systematic stuff. The goal, whether the bully realizes it or not, is to chip away at a person's ability to do their job and to feel like they even belong there. So how do you tell the difference between just a tough boss and an actual bully, or a difficult colleague versus someone who's really out to get you? Well, it all comes down to spotting the warning signs, and there are 7 key red flags you really need to look out for.
Here they are, all 7 at a glance. We're going to break each of these down because some forms of bullying are loud and obvious, right? But others are incredibly sneaky and subtle. Being able to recognize all of them is the absolute first step to doing something about it.
First up, verbal abuse. Now, this goes way beyond a bit of friendly office teasing. We're talking about language that is meant to hurt. You know, the constant insults, the demeaning comments, or maliciously spreading rumors. It's all designed to just chip away at someone's reputation and confidence, bit by bit.
Next, we have persistent criticism. Good feedback? That helps you grow. This kind of criticism is designed to make you feel small. It's often vague, it's relentless, and it's often done in public to really maximize that feeling of humiliation. The key is, it's not about helping you improve. It's about power and control.
Then there's isolation, and this is a really painful tactic. This is when you're suddenly left off the invite for meetings you should be in, or you're not getting key emails. It's being totally ignored by the same people who used to chat with you. It's a deliberate play to make someone feel invisible and totally powerless.
Number 4 is one of the more subtle ones, excessive monitoring. This is where a manager or even a colleague is scrutinizing every little thing you do, setting impossible deadlines, and then constantly moving the goalposts right before you get there. It's a form of control that's cleverly disguised as just doing management. And next is just straight-up sabotage, where a bully is actively working to make you fail. They might forget to give you that critical piece of data for a project, or they might misrepresent your work to the higher-ups. This isn't just being unhelpful, this is a direct attack on your ability to succeed.
The 6th red flag is easily the most alarming: physical threats. And while it might be the rarest form, it is absolutely the most serious. We're talking about everything from aggressive gestures and getting in someone's personal space to, in really extreme cases, actual physical harm. This should never, ever be tolerated. Full stop.
And finally, we've got the modern version of bullying. The harassment doesn't stop when you clock out anymore. Cyberbullying follows you home through nasty emails, demeaning comments on the company's Slack, or even targeted posts on social media. That screen gives the bully a shield, and it often makes the attacks even more vicious.
Okay, so now we know how to identify it, but why is it so important to stamp it out? Because bullying doesn't just hurt the person being targeted. No, it sends these damaging ripples out across the entire organization.
The cost to the company is huge. When you let bullying create a toxic environment, you see productivity just plummet because people are stressed and checked out. Morale hits rock bottom, and not just for the target, but for everyone who has to watch it happen. And what happens next? Good people leave. That huge spike in turnover costs companies a ton in both money and talent.
So, we've defined the problem, we've seen the awful impact it has, but the biggest question is still on the table. What can you actually do about it?
So this final part of our explainer is all about a practical guide to action.
The responsibility here is really twofold. On one hand, employers have a fundamental duty to build a safe culture, and on the other, employees have rights and they have actions they can take to protect themselves. So let's look at both sides of this coin. For employers, it all starts with having a clear zero-tolerance policy, no ambiguity. This has to be backed up by a safe, confidential way for people to report what's happening so they can speak up without fearing it'll come back on them. Training is also absolutely essential so managers know how to spot this and what to do. And finally, you have to actively monitor the culture to stop these problems before they take root.
And if you're the one being targeted, you are not powerless. Your first and most important step is to document everything. Dates, times, what was said, who saw it, those details are your power. Then, use the official channels your company has to report it. And please, don't try to go through this alone. Find support in trusted coworkers or friends. And most importantly, you have to prioritize your own health. No job is worth your well-being.
And all of this brings us to one final big question. I want you to think about your own workplace, your own team, your company's leadership. Is the system there built to proactively protect its people from this kind of thing? Or is it designed, whether on purpose or not, to just look the other way? The answer to that question? It reveals everything.